It did not occur here, but I kind of needed to smooth all this out. Maybe when it warms up a little bit and I get to the gravel yard, we'll redo some of this. Pretty cold outside now, but we've got most of it cleaned up. The water line break was right up here next to the fifth wheel. We kind of got the debris field moved out. I cleaned out all the rocks that we dug up. Got all that moved out. I'll need to re-gravel this. It's not too bad a shape, but usually I can get a little bit better cleanup than this. Since I did it at dark at night, it makes it a little bit more difficult to see what you got. But pretty happy with it. The water line has stayed leak free. It was about right around in this area where we dug it up. I kind of cut this down a little bit so that I'd be ready for gravel. Got just a little bit of a hump to trim off here. Definitely not going to get it perfect today because we had what equated to a flood almost here just a few days ago. The idea today is just kind of get it close and keep it kind of trimmed up until all this dries out down here. Summertime hits, we should be ready. Clean up this last little bit here with the bucket. Up with a tilt bucket, but I needed to leave this small bucket on because I had a bunch of rocks and things I had to clean out and I needed a thumb. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the Sany. We're close to 100 hours. We're right now around 90. I think it's 87. It's really hard to see in the sunlight. Really happy with the machine still. It's been really nice having that machine here to use anytime that something comes up, especially when that water line broke. I'm sure I'll get a little bit more landscaping done this summer. It's kind of hard to do anything now because it's so cold and so wet. It's not snowing, it's raining, so probably got just a little bit more here to trim out. I will say probably my favorite thing on this machine, off of most of the other machines I've owned, is I'm really glad that I got a cab. This would be a day that I probably would not try to work this just because of the cold temps. Get this trying to get this perfect, but I definitely don't want any kind of drainage or water getting trapped back here. I want this to run off. That should be pretty close. Oh yeah, it looks nice and smooth again. You know, we're going to have some wetness and some freezing occur that's going to kind of change that up a little bit as the winter continues. We've almost made it to spring. Usually around March kind of things settle down here where I live. One thing I really like about this, it's taking some getting used to. Let this idle down here. Is I've really gotten used to running the blade with the cab. That has taken quite a few hours. I'd say probably 20 or 30 hours just running the machine. Kind of get used to it. The glass, you can pretty much see everything except for this side of the blade. I've kind of learned to kind of look up, gauge it, and engage. Another way to run the blade is you can actually turn the machine to its side at a slight, not necessarily perpendicular to the tracks, maybe a little bit off. And you can look right out the side window and you can see everything the blade's doing. The only thing you have to keep mindful of is that you're not keep track of where that boom's at. You get yourself into trouble, especially working around the building or fifth wheel or, you know, a car or something. Just kind of track this in here where maybe it won't move as freely as it normally would, just being loose dirt. And that was one of my cons prior. That this machine, when I first got it, did not travel as fast as the 27-seat John Deere. But now that the machine's broken in, it goes a little bit faster than that Deere did, which I'm really happy about. Pretty good there. I think I'm going to go ahead and track this in just to get everything somewhat compacted so it doesn't wash off or get stuck in the razor tires or, you know, whatever may happen. of go around, take a look at the machine. It has not been washed, and that is mainly because it is in freezing most of the time. I'll get out, we'll take a look at the machine. I'll kind of go over kind of what it looks like at 100 hours. Alright, so one thing that I've noticed is maybe this door has gotten a little bit looser than it was when I first got it. I don't know if there's a way to adjust it, but I'll probably do that at some point. It's probably less the door and more so the gasket. It's not a big deal. I am going to check it before summer comes around. I do not want to discover that this has become non-bee proof like it was last year. But you can kind of see the movement there. Needs to be tightened up a little bit, or some kind of adjustment made just to keep that sealed up. At some point, I think there was a grease fitting here, and that's no longer there now. There is one still in the top, so at some point I'll get that replaced. Overall machine, it is 0 turn, so you know, not any kind of scratches or dents or anything in the body of the machine, other than just some dirt. The track system's real easy to take care of. It's in really nasty shape right now because we did that water line repair in the mud. The machine is really easy to grease. Really the only trouble you have with any machine is these grease fittings here, kind of where my foot's at. You know, they get covered up in rocks and dirt. You really should try not to let material go over the blade, but inevitably it happens. In the last video, this was that lot that I was talking about. I would say the Sany probably has the best from the factory lighting of any machine that I've ever been on. Super bright at night. You can't see behind you, but if you're working, you know, with a boom and not with a blade, you can see everything you need to see and then some. This is custom. This did not come on the Sany. The dealer did this. This has worked out really well. Saves you a ton of time flipping back and forth between auxiliary hydraulics. You don't have to unhook your thumb. Really happy with the bucket. If you look here on the side, that's a Paladin symbol and got a Sany label on it. So Paladin, I'm assuming, is making these for Sany. Really good bucket system. Still tight to this day, and really easy to get on and off. The thumb has been great. It matches up really well with this bucket. Less so with the 2-foot wide bucket. These tines end up going in between on the 2-foot bucket. These almost line up directly with this, with the teeth on this bucket, which makes fine detail rock picking really easy. Just giving you some shots there of what this thing actually looks like. All of this here, my understanding is, if you really wanted to add another spool and secondary hydraulics on top of the aux that's already there, you could do it. I think you do have to change out some joystick stuff on the left hand side joystick, but those fittings are there. Kind of just giving you some shots of everything on the machine. I know when I'm looking at machines, it's really helpful to kind of see, you know, where's mud going to pack. This one's pretty much just like every other machine. The blade gets packed up with dirt. One thing I wanted to mention, this right here, if you heard banging or vibrations in the machine, that's what that is. I had made a little puck thing to go on there, and at some point that's fell back off again. But this is how they come from the factory, and this thing's gonna wobble back and forth and make some noise if you've got any kind of vibration in the machine. The other track side, again, you know, the machine's kind of filthy. I've not knocked this off yet, which is pretty amazing, and it is pretty useful. I will say the glass in the machine, really high quality, very easy to keep clean. And you know, some stuff's hit it and it hadn't broke yet, so just the design and the split plane, you end up with most things hit this part, which is, you know, obviously a smaller area, and probably a little bit stronger because it's not a full front. But yeah, this has worked out very well. Here's your catch. Really good visibility out of the back if it's sunny. If it's dark, you can't really see anything unless you have light. I have had pretty good luck just turning on the little light up there. That seems to work fairly well, about giving you at least enough light to where you can see. The only downside is it only flashes a few times, maybe like once a second, and that's all you get to see. Maintenance, it has already been through the first oil change. It's really easy to do. I think you could probably do it without taking the bottom lid off. Up underneath here they have basically an access panel that you can remove, but there's also holes that you could reach up there and grab that one. Oil fill, I've already talked about that. The hydraulic fluid fill is up underneath here. You do have to actually remove something. I've chosen to always remove the vent cover, which is a couple of hex head bolts. Your long-term grease points, you got one there. You've got one over here on the front of the machine. And conveniently, they have your hours marked for all of your other grease points. All of this, I try to grease this, you know, every 8 hours. Definitely, if I use it for a day, I grease it in the afternoon. One thing about the winter, running this machine in the cold has taught me is always grease the machine before you quit for the day. That way, when you don't have, you're not out there greasing it in the freezing cold in the morning. The boom area here, this is a good spot for the laser system. Basically, it's got a magnet. It pops in here and fits in here really nice. You can see it really easily from the cab. So at this point, there really isn't anything I dislike about this machine. It's sized right for my application, maybe a little bit bigger than what I normally need, which is a good spot to be. Fit and finish has been excellent. The only fit and finish thing that I've noticed is this, but that's pretty typical. I think the gasket's probably got more to do with that than anything. It might slightly be out just a little bit, especially right here. But I think that's just an adjustment. The only thing that's actually fell off the machine, or that I'm gonna have to replace it, that came loose, I think it literally is this grease fitting on this hinge here. I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember if it was there or not, but there's one up there, and I see a lot of you know, greasy like material on the top here, so I'm assuming that that came out at some point. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.